Hey everyone, welcome back to Tickle Maths. And if you're new here, we will be doing modern mathematics and additional mathematics of Form 4 and Form 5. And currently, I'm doing additional mathematics Form 4, Chapter 2, Quadratic Equation. And we are already nearing, this is the last video for that particular chapter. So if you haven't checked out my previous videos, please do on this chapter. So currently today we are going to have a look at types of roots. Okay, so far in this particular chapter we have looked at the general form of the quadratic equation. Let me do a recap. So the general form is said to be ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, and equals to 0 is a very important part, and this is called quadratic equations. And why is it called quadratic? Because of the power 2 or the squared here. So if you see a equation and the unknown, which is known as x, has the power of 2 and no other powered x more than 2, then it's called quadratic equation. And we have seen that the general form for this quadratic equation is this one here. And we have been looking at various methods to solve this quadratic equation and find out the value for x. And we have seen the factorization method. So we saw factorization method, completing the squares, and also using the formula. So today we will have a look at types of roots. So first of all, we have to know that for this particular quadratic equation, when we solve, we will get three types of roots, which are, first, we might get two roots or one root or no roots. So these are the three major outcomes of when we solve a quadratic equation. So why is it like only no roots 1 or 2, not more than 2? Because this equation is in the power of 2. So let's say if this equation has the power of 3, for example, then we might get until 3 roots. Okay, if it's power of 4, we might get until 4 roots. But all the equations will never have 2 roots. Some of the equations might have 1 root or no roots at all. Okay, so right now we will look at 3 examples where we can simply find out whether this equation has 1 root, 2 roots or no root at all. So to test the number of roots, we have a formula that we can follow, which is we are going to use this formula, b square minus 4ac, and we are going to test if this value here is more than or greater than 0, less than 0, or equals to 0. Okay, so if let's say this is more than 0, then it is safe to say that this particular equation, whatever equation they give, we have 2 roots. And if it's less than 0, we have no roots. And if it's 0 equals to 0, then we have 1 root. So let's have a look on examples to find out this. Okay, so let's say example we have an equation x squared minus 3x plus 4 equals to 0. So first of all, check if this is in the general form, and the first rule for checking this equation to be in general form is to check if this equation has equals to 0 sign. And if you have a look, yes, we have this one checked out. Then have a look if the x squared, x and the constants are arranged properly according to the general form here. And then you can always plug in the value of a, b, c into this formula to find out whether it's more than 0 or less than 0 or equals to 0. So we know that we are going to use b squared minus 4ac. So if you have a look in this equation, a is equals to 1, where x squared has 1 in front, and b is equals to negative 3, see here, and c is equals to positive 4. So just plug in inside this formula, where b is going to be simply negative 3 squared minus 4, and a is going to be 1 and c is going to be 4, and solve. You can always use calculator for this if you're not really familiar with it. Okay, if you don't like the manual counting, you can always use your calculator. And this one is going to give you negative 7, because negative 3 squared is going to be 9. 9 minus 16, if you use a calculator, you will get negative 7, which is less than 0. So it's going to be no roots. Why? Because here we have seen if it's less than 0, we are going to get a no root. Okay, we can always think this as I can give you a simple formula. Usually when you get a result which is not happy result, like less than 0 for example, you will be very sad, right? Which will be equal to no roots. So less than 0 means, let's say you fail the test and then you're very sad. And why you're sad? Because you failed the test, and that means no roots. So that is a simple formula that you can remember, to remember that if the b squared minus 4ac value is less than 0 means it has no roots. So now let's have a look at greater than 0 and equals to 0. So let's have a look at another example where the equation is given as x squared minus 5x minus 14 equals to 0. First of all, check if this is in a general form, and we know that general form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. And if you have a look at it, we can sense the equals to 0. We can really find equals to 0. And yes, it is in a general form where x squareds are arranged here, and x values are arranged here, and c constant values are arranged here. Okay, so now you can always write down that what are the a value. A is equals to 1, so you can see 1x squared here, and b is equals to negative 5, negative 5x, and c is equals to negative 14. Okay, then simply you can always use the formula, which is b squared minus 4ac, and b squared, we know that negative 5 squared minus 4, a is 1, c is negative 14 here. And you can always use the calculator to calculate, and this is going to give you 6. Okay, and then when you add up this, you will somehow get 81, which is greater than 0. And we have seen from previously, if it's greater than 0, then we have two roots which are different, two different roots. Okay, which means we will have two roots which will be different values. So when we solve this equation, you will always get two x values which are different from each other. Okay, and we will have two roots because it's greater than 0. Then let's have a look at another example. For example, let's take 9x squared minus 12x plus 4 equals to 0. Make sure, check before whatever you're doing, check if this is in general form, if this equation satisfies the general form. Okay, and if you have a look, yes it is, because we can see the equals to 0 sign, and also the x squared are arranged here and the x's are arranged in the middle and the constant c's are arranged at the end of the equation before equal sign. So then we can always use this b square minus 4ac formula. And before that, if you have confusion, you can always write down this part where a here in this equation is equals to 9, b is equals to negative 12, c is equals to 4. So then substitute inside this formula, which is going to be negative 12 squared, b minus 4, a is going to be 9, and c is going to be 4 again. And you can always use the calculator here, and I think somehow you're going to get the value of 0 if you use your calculator. And we know that if we get 0, it's going to be one root. How? We will somehow get to solve this x. Okay, we will factorize this equation out, and somehow we can get let's say this will be the factorization, and you will get x equals to 203 or x equals to 203, which is the same root, where you can see these two are the same value. So this one means that we have two roots but they are the same. So we say it is only one root. Okay, so yeah, so we have seen that so far we have seen three types of roots here, where it's going to be if we use this formula b squared minus 4ac, if this value is greater than 0, which means it's going to be two solid roots which are different, or sometimes they also say two different real roots. And why do some of the parts use the term real roots? So because you won't know now, somehow when you go towards the higher learning, if you're doing mathematics or also physics, you will somehow learn that there are two types of numbers, real and imaginary. You don't have to know about the imaginary numbers right now, but then real roots are the, so we do have real and unreal numbers. So that's why when we write the roots, we make sure we stress real part. Okay, So yeah, that is just a fun fact. You don't have to know. So when you do this test, if this value here, if you get more than 0, just be happy, which means you have passed and you will get two solid roots. And if you don't pass this test, then which means you're going to get less than 0, and which means you failed and you have to be sad, and there's that equals to no roots. And if you get just right, like ngum ngum 0, it means like you're you're just passed and you will going to get one root. So you can always use this test. And in chapter 3 we will have a look at how to put this thing in graph form. Okay, how to show that quadratic equations, how to show quadratic equations which have two roots, no roots, and one root in graph form. Okay, if you haven't subscribed the channel yet, please do subscribe the channel to learn mathematics for free, and do share with your friends. And if you find that having difficult times understanding in English, you can always comment down in the comment section to ask me to teach in Malay or Tamil. But I have been teaching in Malay and Tamil, but somehow I felt like there was not much of demand, so I switched to only English. So yeah, do consider sending your questions towards my email address and also my Instagram ID I have provided in the description box if you have any, and we will discuss it tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Bye.